clip or something about it.
Here we go. Yeah, so you've got in your pocket.
All right.
Okay, everyone, good evening. We're back again here for another live lesson at the golf studio here at June's. Let me just mute this microphone on here, otherwise we're going to get a lot of feedback. Now, hopefully you can all hear okay. If you can't hear, please let me know on Facebook or YouTube ASAP so we don't spend the next hour just chatting to ourselves. So just give us a thumbs up, like the video if you can hear me loud and clear. Tonight, as you know, we are joined by Mr. Kris Nicol, PGA Pro here at June's Golf Centre, who this evening is going to give you a presentation, a demonstration, and of course an explanation on how you can learn to shape the golf ball delivery. And as I've said in my advertising of this, many of you will be able to shape the ball, but it's not at will. Of course, it's by accident, and at times it can be extremely frustrating. And I've listened to what Kriss is going to present this evening, and I'm ultra confident and super excited that he's going to deliver a fantastic session. And if you pay attention, make some notes, it will make a real difference to your golf performance and of course your enjoyment of the game. I'm not going to say anymore because Kriss has got a little introduction. So a round of applause at home, everybody. Put your hands together for Kris Nicol. Here he is.
Hello. Welcome. I'm quite excited, a little bit nervous about doing this Facebook Live, but we'll get stuck in. I'm going to try and show you tonight why you want to kind of shape your golf shots. Loads of guys that I get in for lessons hit a certain type of shape, ball flight, and one of the best ways to kind of counteract it and neutralize it is by working the golf ball the other way and understanding different ways and how to do it. So great way to kind of neutralize your flight, shaping your shots, like especially if you're out in the golf course and you get stuck behind a tree or you've got an obstacle in front of you, you need to shape it. Great to be able to practice it, be able to actually take it out in the golf course. Playing up here in northeast of Scotland, playing in a little bit of wind, you want to be able to almost shape it up and bank up against certain different winds, controlling your flight, low, high, shaping it right to left, left to right. So I'm going to try and show you some kind of ways and how to do it, how I do it, which isn't necessarily right, but it's my way of doing it. Hopefully you can kind of pick up little pieces for tonight, and you can try it out yourself. And I'll look at giving you ways of different ways to practice the different kind of elements that we're going to be looking at. I've got a couple of videos that I want you to just have a quick look at because it's two shots that really stick in my mind on shot shapes. So we've got like Tiger Woods playing, I think he was in Mexico. He's in a bunker. He's got a big high cut round a tree. Plays a great shot on the green. And then we've got Bubba Watson, Masters win. He's had his poor drive up into trees and he's had the hook-ass wedge. Crazy golf shot that eventually won him a Masters. So if Pete wants to go to that, let me show you that. So that's two golf shots that really sticks in my mind on how to shape your golf ball. Probably like I think now most golf events you can see the actual shot trace of the flight of the golf ball, which I just think is great because some of these guys play just incredible golf shots. And it doesn't mean necessarily that it's just for top players. It's a great way for beginners to kind of start out being able to control their golf ball, control where it starts, and control the curve on it. We'll start off with a fade shot, so the left to right. So that shot Tiger Woods hit round the tree, curving left to right. I'll give you a little bit of an example on my general setup for a 7-iron, and then I'll show you a little subtle difference in how you maybe change that to produce that left to right shot. So is that cameras on, Pete, for the face on? Aye.
Which one do you want? Both or?
Aye, both. Get both on, it'd be perfect.
Split 50-50 now.
Right, cool. So I've got alignment stick set up here. I've got the pink rod pretty much down for my body alignment, and then we've got the green stick for my ball position. So basically, for 7-iron, what I kind of like to see is the ball position being maybe just slightly left of center, and getting your body pretty much aligned, pretty square. So like feet, knees, hips, shoulders, getting them all pretty square. So pretty much just getting it in, getting the feet and the body aligned, and getting the ball position just forward of center. So I'll try and just add just normal straight shot for a start. So that would pretty much be my kind of standard shot. Not really thinking too much about. I know. So it's interesting. So I mean, we can look at that. We can look at the data on that shot. And the two kind of elements that I'm wanting to look at tonight. So it would be number one would be your club face. So we can kind of see it.
That's on there.
So that's on there.
They can see that on, yeah.
Okay. So in the top left hand diagram, so you've got the face open, so 0.1 degrees. So it's pretty much dead on the target. And then if we've got, where's the path, Pete?
You can change the down the bottom.
Oh. I'll just go in here.
Have you got all dots on
Yeah.
there?
I think I'll put, actually, see if you just go up onto the, see if you just actually go back to the main screen.
The first one?
Just the actual, so let's see, can you see that on the computer?
The reason there's no path showing up, Chris, is it was 0.0.
Okay. There you go. Because it was just coming up face to path.
So there you go. It didn't give a path reading for him to see because it was dead on the line. So there wasn't a path.
There you go. So it was just it's the face to path number that it came up. Perfect. Right. So we've got club face. So pretty much wherever your face is aiming at impact is roughly where the ball's going to kind of start. Generally where the ball's going to start, providing we've hit it at the middle. And then to kind of almost add that curve, we've got the path element. So I think Sam touched on a little bit of it yesterday. So you've got out to in path. You've got an in to out path. So a club that's traveling to the right of target, a club that's traveling to the left of target, excuse me, and then your straight path. So coming from the inside, hitting it, and then going in again. So that shot was pretty much zero path. 0.1 with the face. So pretty good. It's so tough to hit. For me, I find it's really tough to hit like that all the time. It's almost like you kind of want to hit a little bit of shape. The closer you can get the face to path ratio down to 0, then happy days. But for us to hit the fade shot, so a couple of things I would like to see change. We've got to align our body a little bit left of the target, and getting the club face aiming just a little bit left. So that'd be kind of number 1. And then we might just move the ball position just slightly further forward in our stance. And then for there, if we just swing along the line of our body, starts a little bit up a left, it's overcutting, but it's gave us that left to right shape.
Do you want to bring up that data? Perhaps if you could just explain something you said there, Kriss, I think it'll be useful for everyone watching at home is you aim the body left. Now, I want that ball to curl to the right, so why did you aim the club face left as well?
Because I want the ball to start left.
So it's to get the ball to set off left, otherwise it would set off too straight and finish off target, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a key point, I think, isn't there? That I think you don't find a lot of people get that wrong when they're trying to shape the ball, is they sort of start the club face perhaps even open.
Yeah.
Aiming to the right, thinking, well, I want it to curl to the right, but then the problem is the ball sets off too far right and finishes in the rubbish on the right or out of bounds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
So, like, that's a couple of things definitely worth playing. I suppose this whole session tonight, I'll say some stuff that if you've got to write it down, you can write it down, give it a try. It might not work for you. You might kind of make slight adjustments for yourself, because for me to hit that little fade shot, I can generally just aim a little bit left. There might be different ways you could maybe alter your grip a little bit. It depends on how your grip is, really. That's the value, I suppose, coming in for a lesson and seeing where your path, where your club face is. Get checked up on your grip, see if your grip's in good order. I think one of the other things that I'll maybe just say just about the fade shot. So, like, you've seen Tiger Woods hitting that shot out the bunker, and you would have noticed these like helicopter kind of finish. Really try to hold that face open. So, like, I think the commentator mentioned how far left he was aiming. He has to swing it so far across his body, really holding that club face open to stop, I think, for going left. Unbelievable shot. So that's pretty much a fade shot. If we look at the draw shot, so a couple of things you want to kind of do. You aim a body, aim a club, again, a little bit to the right of your target. And I would maybe just nudge your ball position back in the stance just a little touch. So if we go a little bit further back in the stance, aiming the body, aim the club just a little bit to the right. And then if we go to try and hit a shot here. So starting up a right, overturning a little bit, but we've got that right to left shape. So I suppose you see it on here, the path. The path was 5.8 degrees. Into out, yeah, sorry. Seeing things there. So my club was traveling 5.8 degrees from inside to out. Club face was a little bit left of that. Gets it coming back. So really shaping it. To hit that fade shot, we go club face is a little bit left, but the path needs to be a little bit further left. Same with the draw shot. So to hit the draw shot, the path needs to be out to the right, but then the club face has to be pointing left of that path, but no left of your target. Does that make sense?
So just to clarify then, Kriss, so what we're saying, forget where the ball finishes here for now.
Yeah.
But if you want just to create curvature on the ball, and I think we were chatting earlier, weren't we, Kriss, about this, that, you know, to simplify this and for you to have some fun when you're practicing here at the range or wherever you go and practice, if you just remember, if you get the club face looking anything left of the direction in which the club head is traveling, or you could flip that and say if you get the club head traveling anything to the right of where the club face is looking at impact, then that ball will curl to the left.
Yeah.
And then you can reverse that if you want to hit the opposite shot. So just to clarify on that, if you want to hit the slice or the fade, the club face needs to be looking to the right of the direction the club head's traveling in, or the club head's got to be traveling left of where the club face is looking.
Yeah. It is definitely, like, I think it is
straightforward. But I think the challenge is being able to do those, get those parameters in such a way that you've got a workable outcome.
Yeah.
As opposed to it being just a massive hook or a massive slice. But how do you get that? How do you get it to where
you've just got? I mean, you've got to practice. You've got to refine it. It's the same as anything else. If you got to get good at it, you've got to practice and play about with the setup, play about with the feel on it to determine how much shape you're going to actually put on the shot. I mean, like that shot just now, it's got probably a little bit too much curve on it.
Why do you say there's too much curve on that? What for your liking?
For my liking, like for demonstrating purposes, I've got that shape, so I've kind of ticked the box. But
what would you say to anyone then who's at home who's not at your level about actually applying this and practicing it? What sort of things would you suggest to do on the range to get good at this?
Just to be able to kind of shape a shot.
Just as a next step, if they can get on a practice ground, hopefully, you know, we won't be too long, folks, before we're back open. But before that day, when they do come back to the range, or if they're out playing on a golf course now on their own, they can chuck a couple of balls down. What's the first port of call, do you think?
Definitely having a little bit of intent on what you're trying to do, what you want to try and do, and don't be scared of hitting a poor shot.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked before about this, haven't we, Kriss, about learning to practice what we would call ugly.
Yeah.
I think too many people, you come to the range and it's all about just trying to hit nice shots all the time. But there's great merit in actually going to the range where you're not scared about hitting some bad shots, because only through that discomfort are you actually going to jump a level in your performance. And in actual fact, sometimes I think my practice has been trying to make it too perfect in the past instead of just exploring a bit of artistry of what we can do with the ball. Yeah,
exactly, definitely. I think you can totally get stuck in the rut of, especially looking at like videos online, and everything has got to be in perfect positions. Whereas if you can control what you do with the golf ball, then who's to say your swing's wrong? If you can kind of hit a golf shot, like if you've got that left or right shot nailed down to a tee, hit it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that evident when we look at the swings on the tour? And the you know, they're all amazing players. You don't get on the tour without being a phenomenal player, and yet we see so many different swings, different types of golfer, don't we?
Definitely. Yep. So I mean, I suppose if I could give you a little bit of an insight into my kind of golf and where I kind of started with my shape of shot. Like I would have hit probably before, when I was younger, I would have really shaped the ball right to left, low, right to left. I remember playing a couple of courses when I was younger where I had tree-lined, I was on the tees and had tree-lined hitting areas. And I remember just clipping the branches up the right every time. I just couldn't get it started straight because there's so much curve on it. So I was always trying to practice, and still practice just now, try to shape it the other way, just to try and get my ball flight a little bit more neutral.
We've got a couple of questions, Kriss. If you just come in a little bit close. I know yesterday some feedback I got was that it was difficult to hear me because I'm not mic'd up, of course, so I'll speak as loud as I can. We're going to start off. I'll bang it on the screen. It says, it's from William Wallace, and he says, if done correctly, should a fade and a draw shot go the same distance?
I think so, to be honest with you. I think there's been a lot of talk, especially in the past, about if you hit a fade, that you lose a bit of distance. Opposed to the draw. That draw shape, you could argue the draw shape will go a little bit further. But I think if you execute properly, I think there shouldn't be too much change, especially if it's in the big shapes. If it was bigger shapes, then definitely. If you look at the video with Bubba Watson, he'd fit 150. I think he'd have 155 yards, and I think it was a gap wedge. I think he hit.
Yeah, that's just down to dynamic loss, isn't it?
Just closing the club face and generating that. But I think William, for definitely, if you're hitting subtle shapes, there shouldn't be too much difference. Bigger shapes, then you definitely notice a bit of a difference.
We've got another question here, Kriss. This is from Gary Martin. Hi guys, I struggle with the fade as I have a strong grip. When I try to fade, it starts straight and fades because of this. Do I need to address my grip, or can I fade it with a strong grip? Great question. Can you fade the ball with a strong grip?
Definitely. So if you've got a strong grip, you're maybe got to be limited on what you can actually do with it. I think you'd look at I mean, there's a couple of things in that PDF that we're going to be sending out to you. There's a couple of things that I would have mentioned about release. So like if you've got a stronger grip, you definitely need to hold that face open. You can't really release it. If you release it too much, then it's just got to go straight left.
Have you got any tips for Gary on helping him do that? Is there any drills he can work on? Any other concepts? I'm thinking like cricket maybe. Any sort of feelings you have?
Definitely. Like that hold off shot, holding that left wrist really strong through the shot, almost getting your back of your glove, looking at the target. Definitely. Aye.
Just on that, Kriss, I've just come up so you can hear me better. If Gary was in here for a lesson, one of the things you would do would be to perhaps find out how long he's been playing, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you not find? I certainly find a grip change is one of the hardest to get people to make, especially Gary. If, as I know, you've been playing for some time. Making a change to the grip, I assume by your question as well, it's very much like, look, I'm not changing my grip. I'm leaving that, but can I hit a fade? So what would you do, Kriss? You'd have to speak to him.
Exactly. You need to kind of take it. You need to take it case by case. You've got to definitely look at. Oh, Mike's popped up.
I don't know about that.
You've definitely got to look at, I suppose, how much time, Gary, you would put into practice or how much benefit you would maybe get from a grip change. I mean, there's got to be something. You'd be limited to maybe some type of shots that you'd hit, but grip changes are difficult. I think definitely for a start when you're starting off playing golf, it's try and get as good a grip as you can. I mean, if I especially when I was younger, I don't want to try and keep speaking about myself all the time, but when I was younger, I would have really had a really strong grip. So I would have had like about 4 knuckles showing in my left hand, and my right hand would have been really underneath, and I really would have hit really hard hook shots. For me, hit a fade would have been really difficult until if I knew kind of what I know now, then I would maybe be able to hit.
Just on that, I think it's really interesting, Kriss. How old are you talking when you were gripping like this? How old were you?
Well, pretty much when I started. So like,
and what
7, 8, 9.
prompted the change? Obviously, yourself, you wanted to get better at golf, but was there a coach involved? Did you do it yourself?
No, I remember my dad maybe saying a couple of words to me about the grip. Yeah. Well, that was probably one of the times I listened to my dad. No, I remember my dad saying something about my grip. And then actually one of my good friends when I was a junior, he knew a little bit about the golf swing. So he went up to the range with me and showed me really kind of how to grip it. And we changed it a little bit, but it was tough. It was really tough.
I mean, I remember having to change my hold on the club. I actually went the other way too, Kriss. I was a bit weak in my grip, and changing it just felt like awful. At a time, playing a lot of junior golf, and I had a series of, in the summer, I decided just to commit to it. And because I'd gone from a weak grip to a stronger grip, I just hooked everything for about 2 weeks. And then eventually through the practice and commitment, I managed to get it. But that's how difficult a grip change is. And I think being clear, as we said a minute ago, you don't need to have a perfect grip or what would be classed as a neutral grip to enjoy playing great golf. And we're going to touch on a little bit about individual shot shapes, aren't we?
Yeah.
We've got that question from my dad.
Yeah.
Which we'll come on to when you're ready for that, Kriss.
Okay. No, cool. So like that's pretty much just going to cover the fade and the draw shot shapes. Just got to look at maybe just hitting a couple of low shots, seeing the differences in what you kind of try and do with a lower flighted shot. So if you're playing back into a little bit of wind, or you've hit it into trouble into trees and you try to kind of hit it into trees. So a couple of little changes that I would kind of make for the lower shot. Definitely just put the ball back in the stance just a little bit. So we're just moving it a little bit to the right, the center. I would stand in a little bit closer to the golf ball, and I would actually go down the grip a little bit. So go down the grip, a little bit closer, moving the ball back a touch. I might open up my stance just a little bit. And then for there, we're just going to make a nice 3/4 swing, nice and smooth. And you can see how low the finish is compared to like a normal finish for me would be a little bit up, a little bit higher. So I think getting the setup, moving the ball back a little bit, swinging a little bit smoother. That's got to take a spin off. Well, swinging a little bit smoother has got to take a spin off the golf bat, keep the flight down a little bit. We're kind of looking by moving that ball back in your stance. Like if that was your loft of your club, if we move the ball back in the stance, it's got to take a loft off the club a little bit. So it's almost turning that 7-iron out almost into like a 6-iron loft to try and keep the flight down into the wind. So you can kind of see maybe on the mountains there, the peak height of that shot compared to maybe like a normal shot would be. So where's it at? Probably middle of the cliffs, Pete. So a little bit higher, fuller finish. So that would be the few kind of things. Definitely nudge your ball back in the stance a little bit. Maybe get in a little bit closer and really try and swing it smooth. It's so difficult, I think sometimes when you're playing back into the wind, especially up here when it's blowing really, really strong, your kind of natural instinct is to actually really try and force the strike, really try and drive it low. Whereas if you kind of just take a little bit of speed off your swing, nice and easy.
When it's breezy,
swing it easy.
There we go. Just on the low shot, Kriss, do you do anything with your alignment to hit a low shot, or do you stand square?
Aye, sorry. So I do try to just aim a little bit left. For me, especially if you're swinging it a little bit easier, it's got to be a little bit easier to actually turn through the shot. And also, I'm kind of trying to, like, if I'm moving the golf ball back in my stance, this might get a little bit more technical, but
just meeting it earlier, aren't you?
So we're meeting it a little bit earlier in our swing. So your path has got to be a little bit more out to the right. Club face potential a little bit more out to the right. So it's almost, if I've got a little bit, if I open myself up a little bit, I can almost feel as if I'm swinging down my feet line to kind of neutralize the adjustment I've made. Deep lane.
That's for another day.
That is for another day. So that's your low shot. If we go high, so high shots. So if you got to try and ride the wind, if you're downwind, if you're hitting over trees, if you want to try and land the ball a little bit softer on the green, so if it gets a bit firmer. A couple of little things I'd maybe want to try and change again. So I'd maybe move the ball position maybe a little bit further forward than you'd normally have it. I would kind of like to stand just a little bit further away and gripping right up at the top end of the club. And probably the biggest thing I'm trying to kind of get is I'm really trying to get the club. If this was set up, I'm almost trying to get the club back to the same point. So instead of the low shot, can you see it on that camera? So it's almost like a low shot would be a little bit back in the stance. And if this was my setup, I'm almost trying to get it hands forward, taking a loft off the club for the low shot, higher shot, a little bit further forward. And I'm really trying to kind of get the club to come back in, get the shaft back into kind of neutral. A couple of different ways you can kind of try it. You can almost just try and feel like you keep your head behind the golf ball. Feel like you're swinging up a little bit. And I would definitely, if you're try and hit a little bit higher, you want to hit it a bit harder, creating a wee bit more spin and getting the flight. So if you looked at if you remember the lower shot was kind of halfway in between the mountain, higher shot, a little bit more above it. If we go for the proper high shot. So a little bit higher again, landing nice and soft. So that's pretty much your shot. That's your shot shapes that I would kind of like to cover. Is there any questions or anything? Come on, no.
Gary's just said, thanks guys, he doesn't have time to spend changing his grip. I'll just put it up on the screen. Thanks guys, I don't have time to spend changing my grip. I'll concentrate on the club face going forward. He then put, I was once told from a very good coach to hit higher, to step away from the ball half to 1 inch. Would you agree?
Say that again.
To hit it higher,
yeah.
To move away from the ball half to 1 inch. I think you sort of said that by getting closer on the lower shot.
Yeah. I definitely. So like, if you're gonna go lower, get in a little bit tighter to like grip down the club a little bit. If you're gonna go higher, you maybe just want to back up a little bit away from the golf ball a little bit. Definitely.
Something I've thought of, Kriss, just on those 2 shots. And Sam, this came up in Sam's last night as well about grip pressure. Is there anything you'd ever do to change grip pressure for those shots, or would it stay a constant for the low and the high? How would you answer that?
For me, low and, well, definitely the higher shot, you might want to have a little bit more almost play in your wrist. So it's got to be, because you really want to try and get this club to come back into almost your starting point. So you need to have a little bit of play in the wrist. Your hands need to be kind of quite soft with that shot.
So you describe it as a bit more handsy.
Yeah.
The high shot, yeah?
Yeah.
Handsy shot.
A little bit more handsy. I didn't mention actually the higher finish even. Just a feeling of a higher finish. So if you're hitting it high, finish it nice and full. If you got to finish it, if you want to hit low,
having that simple, yeah. To sort of remember that way. We'll type that in the notes then.
So I definitely, if you got to try and you'll the more times you practice, the more time you'll find your kind of your own feelings on how to hit certain shots. And I think when you go to play, is it right? Is your dad's question?
I can bring that.
All right, go for it, because we'll just about to touch on it.
Okay, so this was sent in by Robin Myers. Is it best to play with a shot shape that is consistently reliable for each time I play? Other sports can somewhat determine that shape, for example, cricket and hockey. All right,
so Robin, so like, just as I was going to kind of go on to so if you've got a shot shape, so if you've got a left to right shot shape, and you're comfortable playing that shape, keep playing it. There might come a time where you need to kind of move it a different direction. But I would say for the majority of shots that you hit, if you can hit a fade or a left to right shot, hit it, because you got to be a little bit more comfortable with it. It'll definitely be a little bit more reliable. It'd be pointless going out and trying to be Tiger Woods and hitting different shapes.
Yeah, the only exception to that rule, and I know it's my dad, and I know this shape. My dad got down to, I think it was 3 handicap, hitting this big big fade that came from his time playing a lot of high-level hockey. But at Scarborough Northcliffe, where we grew up playing, there's the 6th hole medal tee. Off that back tee, there's a bank of trees on the left. And if the wind's blowing from the left, it's a long hole. You kind of need to hit driver. He's not got a shot.
Yeah.
And that's the limitations, isn't it?
Aye.
But for most of you, the benefits of knowing if you've got a fade that's off the tee and he's 20, 30 yards fade, you could call it a slice. You've got a big fairway to hit into because you can just aim up down the left side and fade that, slice that ball back into the fairway, as opposed to standing and aiming up down the middle, not knowing if it's going to go left or right. You've only got half a fairway of error to aim at.
Exactly.
We talked a lot about this, Kriss, didn't we? And we're going to bring back some memories of when we could go abroad and we went to tour school. And I was your caddy and sort of coach as well on the range.
Yeah.
And we had some at both first stage down in
Fulford
Heath and second stage in Spain. We talked a lot, didn't we? Would you share with the audience what you were doing on the range and what we noticed? Because we had a little chat earlier and I thought it was really valuable. So, yeah, if you could share that.
So, I mean, when I've been kind of working with Pete, we've been trying to kind of get the flight a little bit more neutral, because when we first started working at it, it would have been a little bit too much right to left. So pretty much when I go play, I'll almost see everything fall kind of left to right. But when we went down to first stage at Fulford Heath, I was finding it really difficult when I was out in the course to hit that shape. And I was panicking a little bit because big tournament, and not really knowing where the ball's going to start was kind of freaking me out a little bit. And there's a couple of tee shots where trees are up on the first tee shot. There's trees up on the right, and they're not even in play. They're nowhere near it. And I remember standing up and hitting a shot, and I hit it pretty good. And I looked up and I was like, "Oh my god, this thing just started so far right and started turning." If you're standing behind it, you'd be like, "Oh, good shot." But it's like, it wasn't my intention to hit that shot. It's just kind of how it came out with how I felt. And I remember speaking to Pete about it after when we was at the range, and he just kind of says, "Look, let's just pick a target, regardless of what shape it is. As long as you can hit it to your target, then fine. Then go play with it. And then once we come away from the first stage, then we can start working at it." So definitely, I suppose a lesson there is when you go to play, you've got to just play with what you've got. Then you go to the range, then you can kind of start working on it. But to try and fix things when you're at the golf course, that can get a little bit messy.
Yeah, I think Kriss is absolutely spot on there. I think we could, when we get out there on the course, it's almost like a Formula One team, and the cars in the race. That's not the time to be changing, the downforce and all that. That's all done in the preparation. Of course, with a Formula One team, after the race, they'll analyse and think, how could we have set this up better? And I think, for a lot of you, when you're going out playing, if you haven't done this already, if you're mid-round and you're tinkering, trying to change stuff, it's a recipe for disaster. You've got to get it round. And that's really what the very best players do when they've not quite got their A game. They can still get it round by just seeing the shot that they're going to play, picking a target and aiming for that instead of getting too much into the technique side of it.
100%. So I definitely, that's a few things. Definitely try and kind of take away when you go play. Pick your target, hit it. Have a little bit of intent in what you're trying to kind of do with it. Kind of next thing I was wanting to try and cover. So it's pretty much all the short shapes that I was wanting to cover.
Just before you go on, very quick, because I know we've got another section coming up here.
Yep.
I think it's just interesting. Kriss mentioned about when we first started working together. It's just popped into my mind. Using the GC quad, we can get access, as you've seen, to club head data, to ball data. And one of the things we recognise, Kriss, if you can recall your club head path when we first started working together, was it 9 degrees into
I think it was averaging about 9 degrees.
So 9 degrees, that's this pink stick is going to be pointing over this way in terms of where his club head path was going. So significantly into out means he's always going to hit this big draw, which he said his like boyhood shot. That's how he always shaped the ball. So no wonder that's still there today. But you've worked quite extensively, haven't you, on neutralising that?
Yeah.
We've seen that today already on the day. I mean, when we're looking at some of these paths there, his path on that last shot, 0.4. The first shot he hit today for you all was 0.0. And what does that deliver you, Kriss? What was the motivation for reducing how out your path was? Why did you do it?
I suppose just because I was relying so much. For me, I felt like I was relying so much on my hands to control the club face, to almost control my flight, to stop it. Like my bad shot was always something that maybe started quite straight and hooked. So you've touched on, if my path's going 9 degrees out that way, and I actually get my club face aiming pretty straight towards the target at impact, then it's just got to go straight left. So, the big thing for me was if I could try and get my path a little bit more neutral, then I would have been less reliant on what I had to do with my hands to control that club face.
I think there's a wonderful phrase out there, folks. You can write this one down. It's called the cone of dispersion. And what we were trying to do with Kriss was if he left the club face square to that path, he had a big push out right here. If you get that club face a little bit more closed and square to the target, he had a ball that would finish way over here. So this massive spread is his cone of dispersion. And by neutralising the path, like all golfers come in, when we take a new pupil in, Kriss, you would say, I'd go as high as 9 out of 10 ask us for one word. They want to be more consistent. And that's what this is about. It's, you can hit good shots. As you saw Bubba Watson in the video, you saw Tiger Woods in the video, they've hit massive shape on the ball. It's a great outcome. But when you're trying to play that sort of shot, if you're going to do that and do it consistently, it's inevitable your cone of dispersion is going to be much bigger.
Definitely.
So your consistency is lower.
Yeah, and that's a value of coming in. That's a value of coming in for lessons, and the value of getting your technique as good as it can. So that was really good. So I'm going to go.
One last question, Kriss. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
This is from Rodney Trail. Does the quality of ball make it easier or harder to shape shots?
Aye.
I'd say.
Aye, definitely.
I think, in fact, there's an argument a softer cover ball, though, would be more shapeable than a harder ball, or not, or the other way. How do you see that?
I would see it being.
Maybe one for a test.
I would definitely one for a test. I would imagine the softer balls get maybe spin a little bit more to create that kind of curvature, where the harder kind of ball maybe wouldn't spin as much. So that would be something to look into, Rodney.
Okay, let's move on then.
All right, so the next kind of part I was wanting to kind of look at was just in how to maybe practice some of these things that might be relevant to you. So definitely one thing that I kind of like to get my golfers doing is when they're trying to kind of make that change is trying to start off with shorter swings. I see too much guys coming in for lessons, and the first thing that they would kind of do is they're going full bore. They're going 100%, big full swings, full speed. And it's so hard to feel a change that's required for us to kind of change that flight or change that part of technique. So if we're going to try and hit these, so if you've got to come down to the range when we get back open and you want to try and hit, shaping it round targets. So if you kind of use one of the tires outside, see if you can aim it up left of the tire and just hit a little pitch shot. Get your 7-iron out, aim a little bit left. Nice kind of soft shots to try and get that feel. And then just gradually build it up. So that would be definitely number one to kind of try. Number two, if we're going to try and work on your path, so for me and Pete were speaking about your path, one good kind of visual I like to kind of have would be almost like a Scotland flag. So if we've got the crosses, your saltire crosses there, so we've got the pink stick This is kind of representing your out to in path, and then a green stick in to out. So if we've got, like I suppose if I use, for example, if I get somebody that comes in and slices a golf ball, generally their path's going to be a little bit out to the out to in. So like top right of your Scotland flag to bottom left. I would kind of like to see it going, or getting them feeling that it starts for the bottom right of the flag to the top left. In reality, they probably won't idiot. It'll feel like that, but it'll be a little bit less out to in. So that's really trying to get your path a little bit better. You could use head covers. So I think Sam would maybe use some head covers or like towels, just to give you a little bit of guide on it. So if we're going to set this up, I'll try and do a little bit of an example. So it would be, if we get somebody that slices it, so that would be generally their path. So I'll try and use these mitts. It might not pick up on the monitor. Where are we going? So almost just as a little bit of visual. So if you kind of slice the golf ball, you're going to hit this mitt, hit the golf ball, and then hit the mitt to the left. So as a way of changing it, it would be, right, give yourself a little bit of a gate to swing through, a little bit of visual, a little bit of feedback on either towels, head covers. That's got to kind of change your path, and then you'd swap it round if you hook it too much. So if you shape it a little bit too much to the right, to the left, we would just stick something down in here because you got to hit that mitt, hit the golf ball, and hit the other mitt. So we're just going to try and switch your path, and just hitting some soft shots for a start. So we're going to just try and hit it through here, get without hitting it for the inside. Start off with the shorter swings, then gradually build it up to the point that you're not hitting your kind of obstacles. Don't put something too hard or too precious like your phones or anything doing it. Or just get.
Well, that's one way to make a change, Kriss.
Well, definitely.
If you want motivation, put a phone down.
100%.
Or your Rolex.
Yep. So that's a little bit of an idea on path. We've got the next one, the club face. So it's all well and good getting your path good if you slice it, but you need to get a club face in order as well. So it's like these two go hand in hand. You can't have like one without the other. So for us to get a club face a little bit better, I would say for me, one of the best drills would be like maybe set something out. So maybe put an alignment stick or use a golf bar or you could use a towel, you could use anything. Just put something on your target line, give yourself a little bit of reference point. And your goal is just to try and start the ball either left or right of your stick. And curving it, if you're working it with your path there as well, then you got to get control of that golf ball. I remember when we was at Scottish Open, Pete, again, I was hitting a lot of shots that were starting way right on my target. And I remember going back up onto the range and we just kind of put a basket down out in front. And that was the goal. We hit maybe 50 shots. And that was the only goal. Just make sure that we're starting the ball left this basket. And then going out the next day and then just kind of you're hoping that you've done enough work there to kind of get back to kind of starting that a little bit more straighter. So that would be my kind of 2-3 things there. What else we got? Mess around with flights. So mess around with hitting it as high as you can, hitting it as low as you can. Like
yeah, I was going to say that.
Especially for me and Pete would have been juniors. Yeah. I think, well, especially, I mean, kind of speaking to Pete, I mean, you had a lot of guys, a lot of juniors at your club, a lot of good players.
Yeah.
And you'd have a lot of kind of competitions on like how high you can hit, how low you can hit. how much shape you can put on the golf shots. All that stuff is great. So if you're coming down to the range with a partner, one of your friends, it's like maybe make a practice a little bit more interesting. See who can hit the highest 7-iron.
Yeah, I think it's been almost an art form that has been lost for a little while in golf. I mean, certainly when I grew up playing, we weren't overcoached. We had some lessons, but we spent a lot of time exploring what we could do, free from the trappings of it being wrong. You know, there was you'd hit some shots, and yeah, you'd make a mess of a few, but you just got onto the ball and you had another go, and you challenged each other. I remember being on the range with like some of my best mates, like Simon Boddy and what have you from Scarborough Northcliffe, and we would just be quite competitive against each other, but who could hit it the highest, who could hit it the lowest. And certainly when I went down to the Belfry doing my PGA training, I was quite amazed at a lot of these lads that had beautiful looking swings, but they could barely shake the ball.
Yeah.
And whilst there's a lot of merit in just being able to hit the ball straight, I don't think it's kind of productive for long-term good golf or great golf if you can't shape the ball at all. So, I think, Kriss, I'd like to see you just show the watching audience some of your, what we're going to call extreme shaping.
Okay.
Yeah, extreme shots. So, we're only doing this with just, is it just a 7-iron?
7-iron.
We could change clubs, of course. We could talk about that. But just for now, with a 7-iron, let's see how big a hook can you hit, first of all.
Okay.
And maybe just talk through very briefly what your thoughts are in setup and swing before you hit this.
Okay, so if I'm going to try and really hit a hard hook shot, so I'm going to aim quite far to the right, I'm definitely going to move the golf ball back in my stance. And I might just change my grip. So I might go...
Gary Martin grip.
So a little bit Gary Martin grip.
A little bit Gary Martin.
So instead of being pretty, and again, can you see that on the screen? Like I would say my left-hand grip would be pretty neutral. Can you see that? So pretty much I can see maybe 1.5 knuckles. I'm just pretty much going to take my left hand, turn it round the club, and that's got to give me a little bit more release and being able to get a toe of the club to turn over. So definitely ball back, aiming up and right, and then really try to feel like I just get a toe of the club twisting over the shot. That's a plan, anyway. Plenty hook, but probably going to start far enough right.
This is interesting. Coming back to the Bubba Watson shot, if I ask you to move it the other way, the same amount.
The same amount the other way.
The same amount of curvature. We can see this ball set up here and set up there. With a 7-iron, can you get that same amount of curvature?
So I might struggle, but I'm going to try.
Why
so
would you struggle, Kriss? What's the difficult thing? Why?
I think when you go, I think especially if you've almost kind of taken that left hand and turned it over the top, you can almost get a little bit more twist on that club face. Whereas I think when you try to kind of almost go the other way, it's so hard. The loft, it's so hard to get someone with a little bit more loft to shape as much. Like a straighter face club's got to turn it a little bit more.
I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Kriss. An opinion: if Bubba Watson was right-handed, would he have been able to play that shot?
Doubtful, like.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go online, you can see the overhead shot of that actual shot that he's played, and it's right angles. And for somebody to do that as a right-hander, I reckon they would be struggling.
The amount of loft that you'd have to have on the club to get that shape just isn't going to create that much tilted axis of the spin, is it?
Yeah.
Go on, let's see how we're going.
We'll try it. We'll try it.
With a 7-iron, let's see
what we'll try it.
I haven't put the camera on the broadcast, but if anyone saw that, if you can make it out on the screen, but nothing like as much curvature.
Nah, I think exactly. I think you could probably see it. So there's like the side spin on it, so it's 2,640 spins to the right. For that.
Question here. It's a surprising one. Is your advice the same for women, Kriss? Do they have more or less difficulty shaping shots?
Oof. So I think, no, definitely no. You can still shape it, 100%.
The golf ball knows nothing of your gender.
Definitely.
That's my mum that's asked that, bizarrely.
All right. No, definitely not.
It's laws of physics. The golf ball just reacts to what the club head does to it. Doesn't look and think, hang on a minute, this is a woman.
Exactly.
I've got to shape the ball differently.
No, exactly. So definitely, juniors, women, it's all the same. You can all do it as long as you've got an understanding of what you need to, the ingredients that you need to have to hit a shot. You can do it, no problem. I think is that pretty much about it. I've got 9 flights. I've got 9 flights. It was a great way to kind of practice. Tiger would have used this a lot. Hitting the 9 different flights. So if you've never really heard of it before, it would be like she'd hit 9 shots. We would go, first shot would be maybe a low draw. Second shot would be a high fade. Third shot, straight, just a normal straight shot. And then you'd go high draw, low fade, high straight, low straight, mid fade, mid draw. Hit the 9 different kind of flights. You're covering kind of all aspects there of the shot shapes. Find out which shot's good for you, which shot you can hit kind of on demand. Go play with it. Go back to the range, work away at maybe the other stuff that you can't quite do or you don't feel comfortable with.
I think we are fast approaching time up. That's nearly an hour, Kriss. Just on that, we have the 9 flights. One of the things we've got here, we've got the 54 ball practice game, which if you signed up for these lessons, you've still got time to do that. We'll send you out the PDFs that Kriss talked about. I'll also include the 54 ball practice game, which is a fantastic game for you to use here at the range to develop your shot making skills. It gets you out of the monotony of practicing. And I think going back to when we were juniors, and Kriss and I, we spent a lot of time in aeroplanes and stuff like that and in cars 2 years, in 2019 now, when we did the Q School. And we talked a lot about our, growing up as juniors and stuff. And we did a lot of that, like the shot shaping. We probably found that I was a bad practicer, I felt, because just standing there and hitting the same shot on a range time after time, hitting 50 or 100 balls with a 7-iron, the same shot, held very little appeal for me. And I'd imagine that's probably the same for a lot of you that don't currently practice. You might find it boring, let's say. The 54 ball practice drill changes that. It's a game changer. It's 54 shots, 54 different shots, and importantly, every shot has a purpose. So you are practicing with intent instead of just aimlessly hitting balls. In fact, a lot of people I see at the range are having nothing more other than a bit of a cardio workout because they're not really doing anything constructive, in my opinion.
Definitely. I think the 54 shot program's great. Just hitting, it's giving you, I suppose, giving you intent on each shot that you're trying to hit, as opposed to just dragging and hitting. Definitely.
Okay, Kriss. Well, is there anything more to add this evening?
Nope. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I kind of bamboozled your minds with nonsense. I hope you've taken something from it. Give it a try when we're gonna get back open, and give it a try when you get back out in the golf course. Give us some feedback on it.
Indeed, yeah. Well, as we did last night with Sam, I'd like you all just to put your hands together. Well done, Kriss. As you knew at the start, this was Kriss's first time doing a live like this. It's not going to be his last, I can promise you. He's going to be back in the future, not too distant future as well. And finally, before we disappear this evening, is just remember, I'm on at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening talking about the mental side of the game. And my promise to you is 5 shots lower without changing your swing. I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Please do like and share the post, and I'll hope to see you all tomorrow night. Bye for now.